Hi there, I'm joined by Richard Sims, who's one of the insolvency practitioners and who is also the Managing Director of FA Sims & Partners, who are the new partners of the ICB. FA Sims & Partners are providing a free expert insolvency and business rescue advice line for the ICB members. Hi there, Richard.
Hello, Martha.
Right, today we're going to briefly discuss FA Sims & Partners as a business and how they can help bookkeepers help their clients who might be struggling with insolvency or business related issues. And then at the end we have a few points from the forum that we're just going to discuss a bit further. So Richard, can you just give the ICB members a brief history of FA Sims & Partners and how you've helped similar bookkeepers in the past with their clients?
Okay, so FA Sims & Partners, thank you Martha by the way, FA Sims & Partners was established in 1978, so we're 35 years of trading now. Over that time we've helped literally thousands and thousands of businesses and their advisors to resolve issues that they may have in relation to, shall we say, financial challenges within their business. We undertake that really by trying to be the place to turn to, the people to turn to with questions in relation to rescue and insolvency matters. What we want to try and do is to make sure, first of all, we give quality advice. So we always advise through our licensed insolvency practitioners, which is very important and is very different to the approach of many firms within our industry sector. We don't have any salespeople, we don't have any commission salespeople, so the advice we give is purely independent with a view to helping the client improve their position. Most importantly, what we're looking to do also is try to empower the bookkeeper to help them understand more about what we can do, how we can help, and also therefore help them to be able to help their clients at an early stage as well. So over that time, we've been working, say, 35 years in business now. We've worked with a lot of professional and trade bodies over that period of time. We offer a lot of advice lines there. So again, our advice is very much there to be used, even if there's nothing in it for us. The important thing is that you feel that your clients have been helped through our advice. Thank you, Martha.
Okay, brilliant. Wow, you sound like you've got a successful company there, Richard. Now, no insolvency is seen as a bit of a taboo area among company directors and maybe sole traders. Yeah. So how do you help bookkeepers approach the subject with their clients?
Okay, this is a regularly asked question because interestingly, we see clients come through from professional advisors such as accountants, solicitors, etc. But we also see clients coming directly to us without going through the professional advisor, which would indicate that they don't feel confident to contact their professional advisor at that stage. So a large part of it, in my view, is for a bookkeeper to be seen to be the place to turn to by their clients, to know that if they do turn to them with a question, they'll be looked after and given some answers and given some help with regard to that situation. So the first place is definitely to break down the barrier so that the client feels comfortable to talk to your good selves with regard to any issues you might find. There should be no embarrassment for the client, hopefully, to come and talk to you about some positive things but also some difficult things as well. So that's the first thing to do. It's actually kind of your receipt, your openness to receive your client into you for help in that situation. Further to that, then it's about proactivity. You may, for example, choose to be the registered office for your client, and usually a small fee can be charged for that. That means that any legal papers can be served upon yourself. So again, depending upon what sort of size operation you're running, whether you're working just yourself, whether there's perhaps a few of you, or running multiple clients in any position, you want to make sure you have access to the information that's sent to the registered office, because in there you're going to pick up on a number of potentially sensitive bits of information that will be useful for you to be able to explain to the client what it's about. Again, we're on the end of the phone to assist if there's things you're not sure of, to explain to the client that that means they need to take action to resolve that particular situation. I'm talking there about, for example, the CCJ, any sort of legal papers that are served through there. Therefore, it gives them an opportunity to look from that side. On top of that, we also offer our business alert status, which is a monitoring service which provides information from both the courts, I say both, three things, the courts, company's house, if they're a limited company, and also from credit agencies. Those three bits of information are converted through to a online email alert if anything changes in the status of the clients from that perspective. So that's something else we're always happy to talk to you about from that perspective. It's a very useful thing both for you keeping an eye on your clients yourselves, but also in helping you support your client, because you're able to be proactive and go to your clients with issues they may not have noticed come in, they may not have paid attention to. So again, you are being a grateful received, helpful resource to your clients at that stage. Okay, thank you.
Brilliant. For the ICB bookkeepers out there who might not be that aware of insolvency issues, what would you say some of the key warning signs that they should be looking out for within their clients' books and records? Okay,
so we're seeing then, we've got to look at different stages of the process of a business facing difficulty. So we're going from a first stage where the business, I suppose, currently slightly reverse, we say. So we look at it from the perspective of something very obvious from the point of view that the business has had a problem that has been clear to everyone. It has been unable to make a payment to someone. It has struggled from that perspective. So that you might call that the symptoms of the situation. So warning signs, you might say, are symptoms, but also underneath that are the causes of that. Now that could be something. I guess it could be something. They may have lost a contract. They may have lost a key employee. There's a variety of things that could lead for you to perhaps anticipate that may lead to a problem for the company longer term, company or business longer term. So there's your causes. Your symptoms then tend to be more cash flow related. So we're seeing a situation there, for example, where maybe there's a fall behind with payments to PAYE, VAT, that type of thing, or we're seeing creditor pressure building up. Just general things that would lead to us to be concerned that the cash isn't there in the business that perhaps we'd like to see there. So it can be as simple as the client not paying themselves a wage, not actually drawing anything from the business because they're waiting for it to pick up. But if there's not a positive, active step to achieve that pickup, it's not going to happen on its own. So again, there's lots of things to keep an eye out for, and it's about, for me, about yourselves being open to the client to know they can come to you if there's things that are concerning them or if you're picking things up from concern. The big advantage as ICB members you have is the closeness you have to your client. The fact you're probably producing weekly, if not monthly, figures for the guys, and those figures are what's going to help you to see those changes coming through at an early stage. So it's the figures plus an understanding of the overall structure and operation of the business as well. Thank you.
Okay, well, some good points covered there. These causes and symptoms, can you maybe suggest some ways that clients can avoid these pitfalls, or suggest some ways to bookkeepers how they can maybe tailor their help to the clients to avoid the pitfalls?
Okay, so I think in that situation what we're talking about really is not just producing a profit and loss account and a balance sheet or a straightforward set of traditional figures. We're talking now about then interpretation of those figures a step further. So we're talking about, for example, a list of future orders perhaps, maybe returns on a per job basis, which wouldn't necessarily come through the profit and loss account. So really going a step beyond what you might see as headline figures. So what a client, I think, more and more now will want to see is not just a profit and loss account and a balance sheet at the end of the month. Cash flow clearly is a very important factor in that, and the cash flow management, and definitely probably a 3-month rolling cash flow forecast within that is very important. Coupled then with, again, greater visibility on when I say non-financial, but not traditional financial figures. So, as I say, order book, that type of thing, profit per case. There's a variety of areas there that we looked at to try and see if you can use your input to be the most valuable thing you can do for your client and help them to have greater visibility in the operation of their company and their business. Okay.
Okay, brilliant. If one of the ICB members do decide to call FA Sims, obviously yourself or one of the other insolvency practitioners will answer that call. How would you handle one of their problems when they come to you?
Okay, so again, interesting question. One of the first things we're looking to do is to work out what's the best structure for that relationship. So more often than not, it will start with a phone call. Sometimes an inquiry perhaps through the email from that side. Most of the time it'll be a phone call. We can then receive the phone call. Sometimes the client will say, a member will say, will you speak to the client directly? We don't want to necessarily be involved in that. I mean, we're not saying we don't encourage that, but I do think that yourself as the member being close to the client can offer us a huge amount of value and offer the client a huge amount of value in resolution of that situation. So without a doubt, if there's a chance to work as a 3 to resolve the situation, that is the ideal position to be at. So it may be first of all as a phone call. It may even be a phone call then with a client. It may then hopefully be, if we need to, a sit-down meeting, perhaps ourselves, yourself as the member and the client, and sort of three-way meeting for an hour or so, perhaps even 2 hours sometimes, depending on time frame. That's all given for free from ourselves. It's all part of the ICB helpline. Structure is that we've got the helpline there for you, and we've got the free advice for a meeting if that's required to discuss the situation. So what we're looking to do then, first of all, we've got to understand what is the time pressure position, because if we're talking about not being able to pay wages tomorrow, for example, or a winding-up position being presented tomorrow, that's a slightly more alarming situation to a position where we're saying, well, we foresee difficulty in paying PAYE, VAT in 2 months' time, for example. So we need to understand what are the key pressure points, and we need to identify what can we do to take the pressure away, or how do we deal with that pressure. Once we know what the time frame are we're looking at, we can then more easily map a route out from that point forward. Those options will not always be insolvency options, not always informal insolvency options. There's a variety of things that can be done, negotiation, etc. And again, we're happy to both assist you in doing so, or perhaps even to empower you to do those conversations yourselves if that's what you prefer to do. Okay, thank you.
Okay, brilliant. Now, some of the ICB members might not have heard of FA Sims before, so can you maybe just give them a brief description of some of the services that you offer and how they could help possibly one of their clients?
Okay, so what we're looking at there really is we're saying, I mentioned very briefly the sort of concept of a financial challenge, you might say, and I guess that's what we're about. So we're trying to help businesses understand where they may be beginning to go wrong with their position, and that's where the three-way operation of that comes in to do so. But our perspective, we're going right from an early stage potential indication of an issue with the company right through, unfortunately, to a terminal position sometimes where the business is not able to continue because of factors that have affected it to the extent there is no future to the business from that point forward. But we're looking at a full range of services there, so right through from the formal insolvency procedures where you need to have a licensed insolvency practitioner to undertake such things as a CVA, a company voluntary arrangement, that is, a liquidation, even a solvent liquidation. Again, the members' liquidation is again very popular at the moment. But again, those formal procedures need to have a licensed practitioner to undertake those. Then we use our experience also on the rescue side, on the informal arrangements and informal options to try and help the clients to, again, resolve the issues without recourse to using a more formal procedure. Okay, thank you.
Brilliant. And just to wrap things up a little bit before we go into the forum questions, why should the ICB members feel they could trust FA Sims to deal with these insolvency problems and not maybe a insolvency practitioners maybe closer to home or just another one in general?
Okay, well, first of all, the helpline is a big plus, and the fact hopefully that the ICB have selected us through their research, that they feel that we are ideally suited in terms of the style of client we work with, our approach to clients. I think that's very important from that side. We are prepared to give that time up where we may not have a return from it, and therefore where other people may be saying, I'm not prepared to advise because there's no fee in it for us. We very much take the view that we have to be available to take the good and the bad, you might say, free advice versus a fee. We're very much of the view that we want to be giving that advice. We want to be the go-to people who you feel comfortable with. Our view is our relationships are not for 2 weeks, 2 months. We're talking about 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. They're the relationships we're looking to have with our partners and with their members as well, in the hope that we can be there and be more recognised and people feel comfortable to fit the phone to us, because we appreciate that that first call, perhaps when you've not spoken to us before, would be a concern because you don't know who we are, you don't know much about us. I mean, here's an opportunity for us today to talk a bit about what we do, but we appreciate that without that first physical contact or telephone contact, you may feel unsure necessarily of what sort of approach we're going to give, which is why it's very important for us today to be talking about, a softer approach from our side, a listening approach, and a very much an understanding approach in terms of what we do as a business structure through there.
Okay, brilliant. Well, they're some of the key aspects of FA Sims and how they work as a company and how they can help the ICB members with any possible insolvency or business-related issues you guys might have with a client. I know the ICB put up a forum a few months ago, and we've just received a few points about what are some of the causes of insolvency that the ICB bookkeepers may have either seen in the past or can see would be an issue. So I'm just going to go through them, and we'd like your opinion, Richard, on how they can deal with them.
Super.
Right, the first one is not being able to understand profit and loss properly within a company.
Okay, so This comes down, I guess, ultimately to the concept here, and it's an overused phrase, I guess, really. It's the driving in the dark at night without your headlights on. You may well crash because you can't see where you're going. So without a doubt, I think that the name profit and loss and balance sheet perhaps don't represent necessarily what it will be understood to be from a business owner. So it's for us, ourselves and yourselves as members, to translate to the client really what exactly the purpose of these statements are, not necessarily what they are, but what they're for and what the benefits are them for, and actually how then I think linking them together with the cash flow is very important there, so the business owner can see a much broader range of picture. Then we go back again to discussions about some additional information, order books, etc., profitability on projects. All those sort of things then begin to make the information more the sort of management information rather than just financial compliance. And that transition from compliance to management information that is useful to the owner of the business is crucially important within that. So again, unfortunately, it's an education process, but I think it's also not overcomplicating. Don't get too drawn into the use of technical terms. Let's talk about why it's useful, why it's beneficial, why it's the right thing to help them to run the business. Okay.
Okay. The second point is not structuring a good business plan on a regular basis. Okay,
so interesting question. So a lot of people would say, a lot of accountants we talk to, bookkeepers we talk to say, well, the client's too small, they don't need a strategy, they don't need a plan. Well, the fact is they do need a plan, unfortunately. They do need a mental plan. It may not be on a 15-page document and a very pretty layout, but at the end of the day, it's got to have some sort of plan in there. And I think, as a very personal view, the next few years, as we begin to draw ourselves out of recession, that's when that plan's going to be most important. As the market grows, I believe the re-entrance back to the market and new entrants back to the market will outweigh the growth in the marketplace. And so it's going to be very important the business has a plan that most importantly has to have input in terms of marketing, development of the business, and also cash flow structure in there. Does it need reinvestment? Does it need further investment? So there is definitely need for a plan. And I think it's an education tool to not to sell the concept of this big flash kind of presentation form. It's more about what are the benefits again of having that plan, why it will be useful, and it's just really asking some questions that in many ways the owner perhaps has already answered, but has never really ever detailed those down into any sort of plan. Okay, thank you.
Okay, the third point, there's only this one and one more left. Companies do not do too much, guesswork around costing and pricing for their business. So maybe they need to be a bit more structured.
Yes, again, I think we're on the same theme here, aren't we, really? We're talking about visibility of the financial information in the business and going that step further away from just handing two pieces of paper over at the end of the month. Here's your P&L, here's your balance sheet, off you go. It's got to come with the translation of that information into something useful for the client. And I think also there's a learning process for ourselves and yourselves as members and every client to begin to understand the business in more detail. By understanding more about the business you can sort of pick up, the more able you are to help with that, because the more you're able to get under the skin of it and make sensible advice within that, and also to look at the information that will be useful for the client to see. They may not even be gathering that information at the moment. You may be able to say, well, this is a way to gather that information. This is the way it will be useful to you. So there's a huge amount of opportunity there. I think the closer you can become with the client, the more under the skin of the business you are, the more able you are to begin to make really useful input outside of the traditional compliance role of the bookkeeper. Thank you.
Okay, and the last point, this is quite an amusing one. Directors who know everything about everything, but still do not get the right person to do the job, which costs the business due to bad decisions.
Well, it's a good question, of course. But the truth is, there is a situation, and we speak to people every week on this in terms of advisors, and there are clients who just won't listen, unfortunately. They're not interested in hearing what you have to say for themselves. They know better, apparently. And we've all dealt with clients in that situation. And to a certain extent, there's only so much that you can do to assist them in that position. But if you know that you are, I think, if we kind of look back almost over the last couple of points we've made, the more insightful you can be, the more value you become. If you make that one big useful point to the client, they'll suddenly begin to realise the value of what you're talking about. And if you can translate the figure work, and again, it's a useful, understandable information. And different people digest information differently. So again, there is no one set plan that will result in the same output for every single client. But if you can get behind understanding the different client you're working with, get close to them, the more you're able to translate into the right language, if that's the word to use, for that particular client. But there is value to give from yourselves, without a doubt, and it's a question of can we get that point across to members, members' clients, to help them to understand the position. But it's going to be a hard battle. There's always clients out there of that nature, but we've got to all do our best to help them with that. But again, it's translation for me, it's useful information, accurate information, timely information that's going to be help them to understand their business better and help them make more money ultimately.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Richard, for joining us today. And to all the ICB members out there watching, you can contact Richard or one of the other insolvency practitioners at FA Sims and Partners on the free insolvency helpline number at the bottom of your screens. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Martha.